What's going on, guys? Fullsteer, and I am back with another video. In today's video I'll be doing an in-depth Sylas jungle guide. Now, Sylas won the poll, as you can see right now. If you guys want to vote yourself on who the next guide's gonna be on, make sure to do that by hitting the notification bell so you can see when the polls go up. And then in the community app you can also check it out. Every poll lasts for 24 hours, so whoever wins after 24 hours gets to be the next champion. So make sure to do so if you want that, and yeah. Also, if you guys want to catch me streaming live, you can. I stream on Twitch, so there's a link in the description. You could just go and follow me there and catch me live playing all kinds of champions, honestly. So, yeah, with that being said, let's get right into the guide. Okay, so getting into the runes. Now, the runes for Sylas are, the main rune is going to be Conqueror. The reason you want Conqueror on Sylas is because with all the auto attacks you weave in between every single ability, this is easily stacked very quickly. So this will give you a lot of extra adaptive damage, but also extra healing as well. And extra healing on top of your W is going to help you sustain through a lot of fights. So this is by far the best rune out of everything you can get on Sylas. Now, combine that with the next one, following this up, is Presence of Mind. The reason you want Presence of Mind over something like Triumph is simply because this fixes all of the mana issues Sylas has. Sylas's abilities cost quite a lot of mana, whilst he doesn't have that much mana himself. So increasing the maximum mana by 500 for all those takedowns you get, and also restoring your maximum mana by 20% every time, basically means that you can sustain fights, like the entire fights or extended fights, so that you can heal with your abilities, so you can get from low to full HP basically instantly by hitting a W, but then also at the same time you will not run out of mana. This is why Triumph isn't that good, because you will heal anyway with your W, and it's better to just have the extra mana sustain, because else you're gonna run out of mana, and that is definitely not what you want. So definitely take Presence of Mind here. Now moving on for the next one, you have basically two options. You have the Tenacity rune, which in most cases is the best one to get, because in most cases there will be enemies on the enemy team that have good amount of CC these days, and the Tenacity really helps with that. Now another rune you could pick up is Alacrity. Now the only thing with this is, right, this only has to be the case if the enemy team doesn't have any hard CC at all, because Sylas has built-in attack speed, and you don't really need it like any extra attack speed to jungle clear or to do anything. If you just synergize, like if you use your abilities in the correct order and just weave in auto attacks with that, you get so much extra attack speed out of the stacks you get from your passive anyway. So there's really no need for this. It's best, in 99% of games, it's best to go for Tenacity, but if they don't have any hard CC or CC in general, then Alacrity is still better for extra attack speed. And now for the last one, on Sylas, it is most ideal to have Last Stand, simply because if they focus you down, you get low, you can use your W to heal back. Your W is going to deal more damage, more healing, and everything is just going to be good that way. It's just a lot better to have Last Stand, so you have like more survivability as well, really. So the moment you get low, deal more damage, heal more, and that's just the way that works. So this is just the setup here. Now for the secondary tree, this basically like goes hand in hand with the healing already. So the main rune you want here is Ravenous Hunter. This really synergizes well with just your entire kit, really. This helps you sustain yourself even better if you hit a W with Ravenous Hunter, or maybe even the change from your E, or an ultimate that you pick up that can be good to use on Ravenous Hunter is also nice. So just any ultimate that could heal you for a lot will also synergize really well with this. The Ravenous Hunter is going to be extra sustain on top of your W, on top of Conqueror healing, and it's just going to make you incredibly hard to kill if you play it fights slow enough, and if you play fights smart enough, I guess. That's just the way to put it. So Ravenous Hunter is actually a very valuable rune. It heals you for a lot throughout games. Also, another great thing about Ravenous Hunter is that it heals you with your jungle camps as well. This means that you'll be full HP basically throughout the entire jungle clear after you hit like level 6. Get a couple stacks on this. There's no way you should be losing any HP or mana clearing your camps, and that is also ideal. So that's really why you want this rune. Now to follow with that rune, I take Eyeball Collection on Sylas. Now you might think, why not Sudden Impact? Because you do dash with your E quite a bit. Now the reason you don't want Sudden Impact is because it lasts for a very short time. And this right here, when it's fully stacked, gives you a lot of extra ability power. And that's actually more useful than a little bit of magic penetration is. You're going for extended fights anyway, so you're just going to be dealing a lot of additional damage with your ability rotations. And this kind of doesn't do the same damage eyeball collection does on Sylas in your extended fights. If you were to go for like burst engages, like if you were a burst champion or a burst engages, then sudden impact is better because 6 magic penetrations for 5 seconds. If you do all of your damage within those 5 seconds. So, I mean, Syndra doesn't really apply this, but let's just say Syndra Q into a Syndra ultimate. That's also, all of that is going to come into a couple seconds, and then sudden impact would be better. But since Sylas' goal is to sustain fights, go for longer fights, it's better to go for eyeball collection because this just gives you a straight ability power value, and that's just going to do overall more for you in fights. So this is really the setup you want. There is no other option really, simply because of the strength of Ravenous Hunter, and then combine that with Conqueror and Presence of Mind. It is just really, really strong. Now for these runes right here, you want to make sure you get the attack speed here. This helps you in your initial jungle clear. The initial jungle clear of Sylas is really, really bad, and you definitely need some extra attack speed, because you will not have your abilities up consistently to be able to clear the camps. So actually having that a little bit of extra attack speed to auto attack the camps in the early stages is going to be very, very useful. So this is definitely necessary. Now from here you take Adaptive Force for some extra damage, and then you take Armor or Magic Resist depending on the enemy team. The enemy jungler mostly. So if the enemy jungler is AP, you take Magic Resist. If he's AD, you take the Armor. And that is basically it for the runes. If you guys have any questions on this, make sure to put those in the comments below, and I'll move on to the item build now. Alright, so for the item build, we have the starting items of a Hunter's Talisman and a refillable potion. This is without a doubt the best starting item on Sylas. You need this to sustain your jungle. If you do not have Hunter's Talisman, you're not going to be able to get through your jungle clear initially. Your initial jungle clear is the most difficult one, and there are a couple tricks that I'll get into later to make your initial jungle clear very easy and very doable. It's going to be a little bit slow, but without this item you're not going to be able to do it, so this is a must. You cannot start with anything else. Now moving on for that item, you just upgrade this into either red or blue smite. It just depends on the enemy team. If the enemy team is very squishy and slippery, it is usually better to go for the blue smite to help you land, like get engages, get in range, land your E's, all that type of stuff. Blue smite would be better. Also, if they're squishy, your blue smite is going to help you burst them down really, really easily. Now, if you have enemies that are going to go for extended fights, examples being Olaf, maybe Vladimir, whoever, like enemies that don't necessarily insta-kill you. I say Vladimir, I know Vladimir late game insta-kills you, but just in general, champions go for extended fights. Red smite's better because it will reduce their damage output and you'll be able to fight them a lot easier in those extended fights. Also, basically, it prevents you from getting one-shot, and if you can get the damage from the enemy from 100% of your HP bar to 90% of your HP bar, and then you press W, you get the other 60% of your HP bar back, basically, so that's more ideal as well. So Red Smite is, in most cases, I think I pick Red Smite about 75% of the time, and then Blue Smite about 25% of the time. So yeah, So the main item upgrade after this, after any smite really, is the Runic Echoes enchant. Runic Echoes is an extremely valuable item. It only costs a total of 2,500 gold. It gives you 80 ability power, 10% CDR, and 300 mana. And also on top of that, the Echo proc, or the Luden's Echo proc, that will also regenerate your mana as well. So basically with this item, the moment you complete this, your jungle clear is easy. You get this, no mana problems anymore ever in your jungle clear, and with Presence of Might in teamfights, you don't have any mana problems as well, which means you can easily give your blue buff away to your mid laner or your ADC, I don't know, who cares, whoever needs it really. So yeah, you don't need blue buff. At the moment you pick this up, blue buff, you can give it, you can use Presence of Mind and Runic Echoes to sustain yourself. This is gonna make sure that you can clear your jungle really fast, really effectively, and yeah, that's just the way you want. Now, moving on from this right here, you have a core item on Sylas that is just extremely good. Actually, I do want to mention this beforehand. If, like on any AP jungler, basically Dark Seal is extremely strong. If you can build this, or if you have the money for this whilst building this, or like before finishing this really, then you should pick one up. Because if the game is going in the right direction, and you are getting some kills here or there, let's say your Dark Seal gets the 10 stacks, the moment that happens, you can literally just buy a Magi's. Like, it doesn't matter what AP jungler you are. If you can have a 10 stack Dark Seal, and if you play your game smart enough, you can definitely get away with just getting a Magi's really on anything AP like wise. If this has at least 10 stacks, it gives you the 10% move speed, which is very, very valuable. And this is a very snowball item. So if you pick this up, if you are doing well in the early game, pick up a Magi's after finishing your Runic Echoes. Just instantly getting a Magi's, which is fine. Then stack this up, and the moment you start stacking this, like basically the more stacks you have, the more impossible it is for the enemy to come back into a game, if you know what I mean. Like, the only way you would lose with a fully stacked Magi's basically is if you make a lot of mistakes, or if you just make mistakes in general. If you get the 25 stacks on Magi's and you play your game smart, there's a very high chance of you winning the game. So on any AP jungler, getting a fully stacked, like just getting a Magi's, picking up an early Dark Seal doing this is going to be very, very valuable. Now, of course, you need to play with it and learn how to play with it, because you cannot just suicide for random plays. You need to keep your Magi's stacked. But yeah, that's just a play style. You can go for it. It isn't necessary, but I just wanted to mention it either way. Now, one of the main items that's very good on Sylas is Protobelt. This is the item I will rush in about 90 to 95% of my games after the Runic Echoes. Of course, Magi's, you could pick that up as well and just get a Protobelt after or before, or any order here. Protobelt is very, very good and synergizes really well with Sylas. The reason this is very good is because your W actually has a fairly short range, and if the enemy is able to kite you effectively, or just keep a certain distance between you and him, then this Protobelt can be very, very valuable to get those crucial W's off to heal back up, and then get like healing and sustain the fight even longer to survive. This also synergizes really well with your E, because the moment you dash forward and you chain to somebody, you can use your Protobelt at the same time, basically. And then a lot of the bullets will just straight up land into him, because you're going to go into melee range, or going to be very, very close into melee range. Just right before you land your E, or like going in it, press Protobelt, and then you will do a lot of damage that way as well. So it's very versatile, and it will be very useful to be able to get ultimates from clutch range distances. Like, there's a lot of range things with Sylas that Protobelt fixes, and that's why this is just a very valuable item. Another thing about this is it gives you health, ability power, and CDR, which are all very good stats on Sylas. Health is obviously good to sustain your fights longer, so you can get more W's off to sustain even longer, really. And then the ability power is obviously good as well. The CDR helps a lot, because Sylas actually does need quite a bit of CDR to be able to sustain his fights, to be able to get his abilities back a lot faster. So overall, this item is extremely good in fixing most of Sylas's problems with range issues and all that type of stuff. So getting those clutch Protobelt W's off is going to be very, very good. So that's why this is the main core item, really. So you could look at a core build like this. You can imagine the Magi's. If you don't build it, if you don't get it in game, that's fine. But it is still a core item if you are playing for it. So the two items here, the core is Protobelt, and moving on from that, you kind of want to pick up your boots at this point. So the boots you want to get on Sylas, there are really three options. You have the Sorks or the defensive boots. Now, I pretty much never go Sorks. The reason for this is I really emphasize the sustainability of my fights on Sylas. You need to be able to survive through fights, survive through damage, survive through the CC, to be able to get those W's off to extend the fights. So you're not going for a burst, you're not going for that quick magic penetration to really just one-shot somebody, you're going for the extension of the fights. And the damage reduction from Ninja Tabi against AD champions is massive on this. And also the CC reduction from Mercury Threat is going to help you an insane amount as well. So in most of, if not all my games, I'll go either Ninjas or Mercs, depending on the enemy team. So the enemy team full AD or just a lot of AD damage in general, Ninjas is going to help you survive better. And then if the enemy team has Tenace or like a lot of CC, Mercs are going to be better. So it's basically one of those boots. And you just want to get those boots over the magic penetration boots just to be able to survive your fights. Like you have Conquer, you have Ravenous Hunter, you have your W effect, Last Stand, everything to help you survive the fights, to be able to like extend them and win them that way. So that's really what you want, get that, and that should be good. Now moving on from here, this is where the build on Sylas starts to vary, and you have a lot more options depending on the enemy teams, really. So we can like click on ability power and really look at the items here that can be good. Like you have Banshees, which is extremely good as a tanky mage item, a tanky ability power item, 60 magic resist, and a banshee shield as well is very, very valuable. So if you notice that you need magic resist, or if you just feel like you're getting hit by those important skill shots like Ash Arrow, all that type of stuff to get engaged on, then Banshees is a very, very good item to pick up right now. Building very defensive on Sylas is very effective, simply because of the fact that, again, you want to extend those fights and everything to like drag out your damage, do more damage in longer periods of time. So if you notice that you're getting hit by Ash Arrows, by those types of engages with those single target spells, then Banshees is definitely something you want to get. If you notice that the enemy team has a lot more AP damage, then this is still an item you want to pick up as well. Other items that are going to be good in this slot as well are more tanky items. If you really want to go this route, if you may not be doing so well in a game, let's say you're not that fat, but you're playing more of a frontline tank role at this point, you can also, instead of going for a AP variant, you can go for a tank variant. So Abyssal Mask can be very good, or the Spirit Visage to give your like W and just everything you have increased healing as well. So the tank items can be very valuable after this as well, just to survive the fights longer, which is still, of course, very good. So going on from just a tanky, like magic resist item really, you have a damage option. In a lot of situations, if you're doing well in a game, building this, like Magi's or no Magi's, you can build this and then follow that up with a Zonias. Zonias is very good on Sylas because if you jump in, do your damage rotation, then you can press Zonias, and basically by the time everything happened, because Zonias also gives 10% CDR, this gives 10% CDR and your jungle item gives it as well, so you'll have a fairly high amount of CDR. So your abilities are going to pretty much come off cooldown again after you did a one rotation. Press Zonias, you can W again, heal yourself back up and extend the fight that way. So Zonias is a very valuable item on Sylas as well for those fight extensions, and yeah. So in a lot of games, if you're doing well, Zonias is just a very good item. Also, if you went Magi's, Zonias is a very solid item to keep your Magi stacks. Like in a lot of situations, Zonias can prevent you from losing your Magi stacks at all. So it is very good that way as well. So Zonias is a very good item as well. Now, if you are really, really snowballing and are confident that you're not going to die, that you don't need a defensive item at this point, if you have a Magi's, picking up a Death Cap is insane, unless they have magic resist, of course. If they have a lot of magic resist, you need to get a Void Staff to make sure you get your damage through it. With a Magi's, you would have a lot of damage already. Without the Magi's, in a lot of situations, if you don't have the Magi's, and then at this point in these three items, if they have a lot of magic resist already, then going more of a tanky route is usually better than just picking up a Void Staff right at this moment, because you don't have that much also base damage, but also ability power at this point with your build. So in a lot of cases, it's better to just go for a more sustainable build. So even if they have more magic resist, and of course you cannot be picking jungle Sylas if you already know that you're going to have an AP ADC and an AP mid lane, AP top lane and everything. If your team is really that heavy, then you're forced to build it. But usually by this item stage, these three items, this shouldn't be necessary, but in some games it is. You can pick up a Death Cap, you can pick up this. This could look like a very standard build, like format here. So you just go here into a Zonias, into Death Cap, Void Staff, and then you'll be dealing a lot of damage late game. Magi's can obviously cancel out maybe the Zonias. You can cancel out the Death Cap as well. It does give you a good amount of ability power if you can keep it stacked. You can also replace the Proto Belt if you want for Magi's in your build. So if you feel like you're not really confident in playing with Proto Belt all that much, or you don't find it to be a very good item to play with, then you can skip this, just put a Magi's in the spot or something, or even just rush a Zonias after your jungle item, skip the Proto Belt, maybe get a Magi's, because getting Zonias into a Magi's is actually very good at sustaining your Magi's, unless you really make a lot of mistakes. But this is very good at sustaining your Magi's. Another item that's going to be good here is the Morello for healing reduction purposes. Really only. There is no really other reason to get a Morello. If you notice that you're against heavy healing teams, Morello is going to be very, very good to be picked up. You can build something like this, as you can see right here. So instead of getting the Proto Belt, which is still very, very good on Sylas, you can, if you want, go Zonias into then the next item Morello for a lot of healing reduction. Also, if you do want to get the Proto Belt, which is like for reasons mentioned earlier, So you pick this up, do something like this. You can go Morello right after. You're not looking to do a huge, like get high AP, but you're mainly looking to reduce their healing. So it kind of balances out really, because if you reduce their healing, you're gonna have to do less damage in general to, for example, a Kane or a Vladimir to actually be able to kill them. So having the healing reduction is actually more valuable than having higher AP, because you're gonna have to basically burst them 2 times if you don't have healing reduction. So yeah. So that's a viable choice as well. And another option that I do want to mention is the Liandry's. This is a very good item. Let's say right here. So you pick up this right here. You have 4 items. Pick up Liandry's, right, to kind of counteract a lot of tanks in the enemy team. So if they have high health champions like Sejuani's, Mundos, anything you could think of, Cho'Gaths, stuff like that. If they have those types of champions, you kind of want to get a Liandry's, mainly for the fact that this just burns their HP really fast. And since you don't necessarily need tankiness yourself to sustain fights, because you can use your W, you can use Conqueror, you can use your Ravenous Hunter healing everything, you can use all of that to sustain yourself, so you don't necessarily need a higher HP or being as tanky as necessary, like to survive fights for an extended period of time. This Liandry's can help you burn and kill those tanks and just play front to back if you have to or anything like that. So it can be a very valuable item, and if you're going Liandry's, you pretty much want to go Void Staff after this, like no matter what, because you need to get this burn damage through the enemy's magic resist, because you're building this into tanks, and a lot of tanks will have the magic resist, of course. So this could also look like a 6-item build. At this point later in the game, you could opt to get rid of your Proto Belt for maybe a tank item if you want that, but you can also get a Death Cap instead of Proto Belt. You can even get rid of your jungle item if you want to. In a lot of cases though, I wouldn't really recommend selling your jungle item on Sylas, because the Red Smite is actually very good at helping you duel, and it's more valuable than most other items to help you duel and like sustain certain champions. So yeah, this is pretty much it for the build on Sylas. There's a lot of options here that you have. If you guys have questions about anything build related, make sure to put those in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer those questions for you. If you guys have enjoyed this video so far, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button, because that helps my YouTube algorithm a lot to get this guide out there to people. And yeah, let's just move on to the gameplay section now. Alright, welcome to the gameplay section of this guide. As you can see, I am playing Sylas, of course, into an Echo. Now, this matchup for Sylas is actually pretty good, simply because Echo isn't really much of an early game champion himself. So, yeah, there are matchups that Sylas struggle with are mostly going to be those early game champions that are going to be good, like to invade you very early on, because Sylas isn't really going to do anything in the early few levels. He needs to hit level 3 to be able to clear his scams the most efficient or the most effective. And before that point, you're kind of slow, like actually really slow if you don't have all 3 of your abilities, because you're not going to be able to utilize your passive as much to be able to clear those camps. So before that point, if you pick any early game jungler or facing like early game junglers or really speedy clear junglers like Kane, for example, if you're facing a Kane for speed clearing, you're going to have issues because you're going to fall behind if the enemy plays it correctly. So do keep that in mind when picking Sylas. But yeah, also Sylas is going to be very good into certain ultimate comps, like right here, this one for example. So you can look at Gangplank ultimate, which is very nice for Sylas. You could, for example, gank top lane and at the same time use Gangplank ult bot lane and have impact there if the Echo ganks or whatever happens. So that could be effective. Echo ult's obviously very nice because this will synergize really well with just going in, like going for a sustain fight, going in, using W for healing everything, and then if you get low, have your abilities cool down, you can press Echo ult and reset out of it, which is also nice. And Diana, kind of the same thing. Her ultimate's very, very good as well, which is just like you take this and you basically do what Diana does. You jump in with your E and use the ultimate and sustain with your W to be able to tank and then get the damage off your ultimate. Also, this ultimate synergizes really well with Zhonya's as well, so that will be built into your build as well. So looking at these ultimates, Jin's ultimate is going to be the least useful, simply because as Sylas you just do not want to be sitting on the edge sniping people with this. So this one doesn't necessarily do much, but then Pyke ultimate is one of the most broken ultimates you could get. So if you are seeing a Pyke on the enemy team, Sylas jungle or Sylas in general just becomes an increasingly strong pick. because with this, you are just going to be able to delete the enemy team completely, and that's definitely something to look for. So if the enemy team has good ultimates like this, and as you can see right here, my team is basically just 80 champions, Sylas becomes an ideal pick, really. No matter if the enemy jungler is an early game jungler, if you have this many good ultimates and you're full AD, there we go. So look at that. If your team is more AP heavy, obviously you don't want to just randomly pick Sylas, but yeah, that's just a team fight like in Champ Select where you can pick him. Of course, if you're one-tricking Sylas, then this all doesn't matter, but yeah. So for Sylas' jungle clear, he struggles the most with his first clear, so getting a good leash is very good. If you don't get a good leash, good kiting of your jungle camps helps as well. So initially, I wanted to start blue side or blue buff on this, in this game specifically on my bot side. Now my bot lane said they didn't want to help me leash. I just mentioned, can I start blue? Like I want to mention I started blue. That's what I always do in every single game. I just mention in chat, yo, I start blue this game. And if they don't want to leash or don't want to do whatever, then I gotta adapt because they're not gonna help me anyway. So in this case, I figured Echo in most cases will start red buff and do a clear like red, raptors, wolves, and then blue buff. That's a very common clear for Echo to do. So what I figured is if I don't get spotted here, which there was no ward being placed or anything like that. We didn't see Echo try to ward here either, which is good. So in this case, I can go in with my Darius and actually invade his blue buff. As you can see, just use the plan to go over. If the Gangplank happens to be standing there, we could just go in and kill the Gangplank here, but he doesn't. I place my ward over the wall here, and right here we start the blue buff. Now this is where the jungle effectiveness, I guess, comes in from Sylas. Now I do get a leash, but as you can see, I'm getting hit quite a lot, and I started E just because this gives me the double like passive hit. And also a little bit of CC to my camp, so I don't take another hit, or I can avoid at least one hit, really. So, as you can see, I'm just going to go through this slowly, because jungle clears on Sylas are very important. So, as you can see, I'm cutting this as much as possible, and then another trick you can do right there is the moment you dash and then E something, you can, right before you finish your dash, you can use the final auto attack to hit the camp you were at, to kill it, and then at the same time dash to the next target. So that's something you can do. You will see me do that a couple times probably. But right here, I dashed. I E towards the Gromp. The moment I connected, I auto-attacked the guy for one more time. And then I move on to the Gromp. Now Gromp, as you can see, I'm really, really low at this point. I'm starting to pop my HP potions and everything. As you can see, they're both popped now. And I start kiting the Gromp, which is the most important thing you need to do. Now with Darius, it is very important, of course, that he walked into a lane in a good position, so they now think probably that I started my top side, my red buff, instead of his blue buff, because they didn't check, they didn't have vision, which is very good for me. But yeah, that's all gonna play in later. Now right here, as you can see me kiting the Gromp as best as I can. I'm not expecting Echo to be here in time, simply because of what I'm expecting his clear to be is red, raptors, wolves. In most cases this is the clear, and then they move up towards doing these two camps, but by that time I'm already gonna be done with this. So as you can see me like kiting this around, waiting for my cooldowns, really trying to get hit as like the least amount of times possible, because that's the thing that could like ruin your jungle clear. Now right here, because of my ward that I placed, we see the Echo move here. He's level 2, and looking from this, he cleared these two camps. He kind of walked to his blue a little fast. I think with Echo's abilities, I don't know what he picked actually. I could check. I think, never mind, doesn't work. Oh, you can here. Q and W. Yeah, he probably should have been able to just do wall. Like, he could have just cleared up this way and would have been fine. But either way, that doesn't really matter. We're playing Sylas. Now, this is one of the tricks you can do with Sylas when it comes to your red side. This also kind of works on your blue side, but not as much. If you are starting red buff, however, so maybe you start here, get a leash from your bot lane, you can just kind of kite these camps out. So you can do red into this camp and then this camp. And with red buff itself, you shouldn't really have any issues clearing the top side of your, like, or this side, I guess, of your jungle at all. So you don't necessarily need to do this trick, but you could still do it with wolves. So you can walk past, hit the wolves with a Q, and then go to blue, hit the wolves with a Q, and then go to... You can do it, but it's most effective here on your raptor camp. So as you can see right now, I queued my raptor camp, so I'm basically using my Q on cooldown to hit my raptors. The raptors, with my talisman healing, will kite towards me, or walk towards me, really, rather. They walk towards me, and then every time this burning goes in, they walk up, one of my AoE auto attacks hits this raptor camp, so it gets kind of a like a delay between hits, so it's not just your Q, but then your E hits, so they will aggro back to you, which you will see in a second here. And as you can see, my HP going up every single time because of my talisman right now. So right here, just wait for it. My raptors come back, I Q the raptors again to make sure that I get the healing here. You can see my HP just keeps regenning from my talisman, and this is what allows you to do a clear like this. They come back, I Q them again, and as you see, I'm getting 40 HP every tick, honestly. So this is very, very useful to be able to sustain yourself through doing red buff, through your initial clear. This is a very, very effective tactic on Sylas. Just every time you have your Q up, basically on cooldown, the raptors will walk back to you. You can Q the raptor camp, you can use your talisman to heal all of your health back, and there you go. That's just the way you can easily do it. So what I figured is he has nothing to gain here, so he's going to probably go back to clearing his bot side camps and then also take the bot scuttle, which, I mean, he might be a little bit wary of me actually being on that scuttle, but I'm just going to give this scuttle up. Basically, I'm going to take this and then reset because I was there anyway. So as you can see right now, my bot lane reset either way, so I wouldn't have been able to contest it really, so this is just ideal. For moving on here, I can check the scuttle. He just did it. It is kind of whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter too much. But yeah. Now here, Blitzcrank, I mean, kind of misses his hook, misses the engage. It is what it is. Gank didn't necessarily pan out. But as you can see right now, with the way this happened, my camps are still up. The Echo could have technically rushed from here, realizing this is down, go here. But that's way too risky for him. And that's also what I know. That is way too risky for him, because if he just does this, and I would have instantly reset, for example. So I went here and I would have reset, would have been here, would have been able to fight him. My bot lane would have been able to react and everything, and he would have just lost. So he cannot do this. He has to accept the fact that he lost these two camps, and I could just clear from there. So right here, again with that, like auto attack thing, you can just use the E towards your gromp and then hit the blue one more time for the last auto attack, which is good. And this is just a jungle clear. This is a very, I guess, farm-based start. We don't necessarily have, like, as a Sylas, you don't necessarily have the early game pressure to do a lot. But at this point, when you start to get a little bit of farming going, the moment you hit like level 5-ish, level 4 to 5, you can start looking for ganks quite effectively, honestly. As you can see me do right here, I'm going to look for the Diana gank. She is full HP. I'm not that healthy on health, by the way, when I went in on this gank. But on Sylas, that really just doesn't matter, because you could just W at the start. At this stage in the game, they will not have enough damage to straight up one-shot you. So you can sustain a fight long enough with Conqueror and all that type of stuff to get another W off as well. I do have to flash the Diana ultimate there because that did a little bit too much damage. Sadly here, the Z does ult, does ignite, that's good. But then he misses all 3 of his shurikens, mostly due to Diana's flash. But missing all 3 of his shurikens basically saved Diana's life. Because if they hit, she would have just been dead. So I just go back in, and in this time, the Echo kind of counter ganks me, which is a really good timing from him, not gonna lie. I do kill the Diana, I do trade 1 for 1. But because of his counter gank and his good timing there, there's not much I can do. Now from this point onwards, we can see this guy right here going really deep on diving the Z, and this is one of the biggest mistakes he could have made. If he would have just accepted the fact that Z got out, this would have been much better. But because he did this, I instantly know that he is 10% HP. He moved out of vision towards the bot side, and this is right now spawning. There is nothing else up, as you can see in my bot side jungle. So instantly when I respawn, I'm just gonna run to the top scuttle, to his blue buff that's also respawning. He went to bot side. Bot side got a kill, like got kills or got killed, whatever. My team died. My team is in base. And they might just go for the Drake now because of that. If they don't go for the Drake, that's fine too. But I at least know that the Echo's red buff is respawning at the same time. Which means with the way he pathed, with how low he was, he's most likely going to be on his red at this stage in the game. So I'm just going to go into a respawn blue buff and just instantly take it again. The good thing to remember here as well is the Darius currently has a 2-0 lead on the Gangplank, so he has lane priority. Also, this lane has a massive wave right here that's pushing into the Gangplank. So if the Gangplank were to react here, and this would have gone into his turret, and he misses all this, the lane for a Gangplank is unsalvageable at that point. He insta-loses, so he cannot react to me invading the top side either. Darius can, however. So also keeping that in mind right here, I'm just going to go and take his blue buff. I'm going to check his Gromp. Gromp's not there. At this point, you can see me standing here with 1 experience from 6. So I'm just waiting here for 1 minion to die. I hit 6. I just wait the minion wave to get pushed in. I steal Gangplank ultimate. Probably didn't have to use it, but I steal it anyway. If I look at it now, it was like I could have probably just held on to it for a little bit. Maybe use it bot lane when a fight happens or anything like that. Because do remember that if you steal Gangplank ultimate or any global ultimate as Sylas, if you hang on to it, then you can get 2 assists basically, or maybe a kill or 2 kills or whatever happens in a situation where you're unable to be at. So it's still very valuable to keep it. So in this case I used it instantly. Don't necessarily have to do that, but in most cases using it really quickly is going to put this on cooldown as fast as possible for you to steal another ultimate. If the enemy team has a lot more valuable ultimates than just 1 or 2, because they have 4 for me in this game. Jhin ultimate is debatable, but yeah. So if they have a lot more, then you kind of want to be more trigger happy with using the ultimates that you take. Simply because you're going to just be able to take the next one a little bit faster. So that's something to keep in mind. Now this is the moment where my jungle clear actually starts to pick up a lot. Because now I have my jungle item completed. I will have the sustain for my Ravenous Hunter very easily. I have 2 stacks on it now. So I'll be able to sustain myself through fights. And moving on from this point, it's just going to be pretty much a breeze through it. Now some of you might be wondering, why did you not clear these small ones from your Krugs there? I have never in this game cleared my Krugs. Not once. Which means my Krug camp is level 1. What does that mean? The camp is almost, compared to the rest of my camps that are currently higher level, as you can see level 6. And this camp is also going to be like level 6-ish. Maybe 7, who knows. But this camp was level 1. Level 1 doesn't give you that much XP. So I just clear the big and the small one and just move on from there. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to stick to a camp that's level 1 for an extended period of time. Especially Krugs, because they take an extended period of time to kill. So that's definitely not something you want. So right here, just move on. I can actually check. This camp is also level 6, as you can see. Earlier that camp was level 1, so I just skipped that. If you know, like, you can click the camps. If you notice the camps are like level 1 or level 2, you can kind of just skip them, leave them. Even if you're invading the enemy, if it's this point in the game, like let's say it's 9 minutes in game, right? And I were to invade and his wolves would be level 1, there is absolutely no way I'd take his wolves. I would just leave him up, because the moment I take his wolves, I would have reset his wolves for the next time he comes around to his wolves being like level 7 or 8 or something like that. And it's just at that point, it's just like, well, I guess I just gave you a free experience increase, which is not ideal for me either. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, looking at this game right now, I can easily abuse the fact that Darius is winning his lane, is doing well, and for me to be able to play top side at the same time. Diana and Echo currently are bot side. Now, if I would have held the Gangplank ultimate, not too sure if we would have still had it, but this could have helped my bot lane out in this situation. But either way, seeing them bot lane is instantly a sign for me that, okay, I can never contest this anymore, because Kai'Sa just died, Blitzcrank is probably going to die, so this is instantly a sign for me to start the Rift Herald up. My top side's down as well. Going here doesn't necessarily do anything for me, because that means I'm going to go towards like 4 people basically. And I can't really contest that, so doing Rift Herald, abusing this guy, and then diving Gangplank again is going to be my most optimal play, because with this Rift Herald I could get the turret here, or kill the Gangplank here, or see whatever happens. So in this case I can get the Rift Herald. I can also always still slow the play down, because if you look at the wave position right now, my plan could have worked depending on what this does, but Darius freezes it kind of backwards, is letting it push towards him, which is good. That kind of zones Gangplank out of the experience range, and it can deny him a lot, as you can see him do right now. Like, the wave is pushing back to him. Gangplank's losing a lot of CS, but Darius at the same time is zoning the Gangplank, so he can't do anything. Basically, yeah. So right there, as you can see, like, he's still zoning. Based off this right here, I decided to just go for my bot side camps. They haven't done the Drake, which is interesting to me. So at this point, with my bot lane being back, at that point, I didn't see them insta rush dragon. So I decided, instead of making that top play and forcing the push, and then like kill Gangplank. Or, like this guy's already denying Gangplank, so Gangplank's already losing. So I back instead with the increased recall. Maybe get the Drake fight in time before they start doing it, because they start walking towards it now. But at this point, my bot lane's back there, and my bot lane has to cut off and everything, and I can get there in time. We could look for a fight. We could look for the dragon ourselves now, because the enemy team didn't go for it. As you can see, I started up here, and then the fight breaks out from their bot lane engaging. Now, in this specific fight, would I say that we would have easily won this? Yes. Would I say that my Kai'Sa kind of ran away for no reason? Yes. Because if she wasn't right here and was actually DPSing, this guy would have insta-died, this guy would have insta-died, and this Diana would have been pretty much dead as well. I stole Diana ultimate, as you just saw, and I got a really good Diana ultimate on the 3 of them. In this case, that's a little bit painful to watch in the replay. I do remember this play as well. So right here, this is where I steal Diana ultimate, a very effective ultimate. She jumps in. She'll have no way out because she just pulled me in as well. I get the ultimate, I hit the Jhin, the Pike, Kai'Sa, Jesus. Kai'Sa jumps back in with her ultimate, luckily, and in this case I missed my E going upwards. I misclicked. Like, I clicked probably here, or maybe just above my own character instead of on the Diana. And if I would have hit that E, I would have CC'd her for a little bit and actually lived. So I do die for missing a skill shot there, which is a little bit unfortunate. In this case, I would have ideally hoped that my Kai'Sa and my Zed would take the Drake, but they didn't. So kind of we lose the fight and we didn't even get, or we won the fight in my opinion. Like, even though I died, we still won. I'll take it, honestly. Like, that Diana ultimate for me was very clutch. I would have ideally liked them to get the dragon, but I can understand why they don't do it with the jungler being dead and the enemy jungler being alive, so it doesn't get smite stolen. Alright, here I'm just basically defending mid lane. They're gonna go for dragon. There is not a whole lot I can do about it right now, simply because of the position we had. The Zed was still running out of base. They were probably already doing it, and the follow-up wasn't that great, so I just decided to give up the first dragon of the game. It's only 12 minutes in, which is kind of slow for the first dragon. But just giving up a dragon, like the first 2 dragons, really doesn't necessarily mean much. All of the dragons have a very low base value on the drakes. So let's say the first 2 are like a mountain dragon. You can get like 4 magic resist out of it, maybe. But that's just for 1 dragon. The dragons start to become a lot more juicy when you can either get them for free and play for a quick soul to just destroy a game. So if you can consistently keep getting free drakes and just get the 2 to 3 dragons really easily without much contention from the enemy jungler or anything like that, or he's just playing a lot of topside and you can get a lot of free dragons that way, that's good. But mostly when you play soul point or when you get soul, that's when dragon starts to become extremely valuable and extremely strong. Soul point is the point you're playing for, so you can easily give up the first 1 or 2 drakes, because after that it's going to be consistently the same dragon, and that dragon's going to be worth more every time you get it. So that's why giving up the first 2 dragons isn't that big of a deal, and it's something you can manage. Now, as you can see right now, look at the time in game, look at turret platings. So I still have Rift Herald. I picked this up earlier. Rift Herald insta-kills 2 plates. Basically, if I use the top lane right here, this turret dies, and we still get full turret plate gold out of it, which is good. I can also use it mid lane, probably to kill this turret, but if you look at the wave position and how strong Diana is compared to my Zed, there's not much I can do with Rift Herald in mid lane, because their enemy team is most likely just going to kill it. Since Darius has all this pressure, I could easily just drop the Rift Herald for him to get it in the turret, and if he's smart or like a team player, he'll just let me get the 2 plates here as well alongside the Rift Herald. He will just stand in range, not hit it really. Yeah, here he just goes to clear the minion wave because he knows that the Rift Herald will kill the turret, which is good. So right here I get the gold as well. We share the gold, he gets gold, I get gold as well because of the Rift Herald killing it. And there we go. We share the gold. Rift Herald doesn't matter wherever you are on the map. It's all good to get the gold. So he backs. The Rift Herald will bounce once more into this turret as well, which is nice. And I'm just again taking echoes topside because, well, it's pretty much good for me to take. Now in this case, I kind of thought, okay, I could easily 1v1ing a Gangplank as Sylas. He's really weak, no problem at all. The only thing I didn't realize the moment I started this 1v1 is, wait, Diana is nowhere to be found. And also my Zed doesn't have any pressure in mid lane. So Diana is most likely going to be here, which, there she is. And at that point I just dip out of the fight. Now right here, I kind of turn around thinking I could just W the gangplank and one-shot him from that range, which is a mistake. Like, I could have easily ran away and I would have gotten out. Really no problem. But then Diana flashes on me, which wasn't ideal. That flash kind of cost me my... Like, this flash from Diana punished my greed play here. Because I turned around to try and W him because he was getting very close to dying to a W there. And I would have been able to heal myself as well. So, yeah, she flashes on me. At that point, I have a decision to make. I can turn around and maybe get a W off on the gangplank, but that wasn't really going to happen since I couldn't really get to him either. So it kind of just turned a little bit awkward of me greeting. I could have just walked away and I would have been fine. So, yeah. Now, my entire jungle camps are up, so I'm basically just going to go and clear my jungle camps, because I definitely need to put those camps on cooldown again, get myself some experience from that. In this case, I see the Echo diving bot lane, so I'm... Like, the moment you see something like this, like a bot lane play going on, they get low, whatever happens, the enemy jungler shows up, you at least want to, like, shadow them, move towards them at least. The Scuttle was also spawning, so moving down wouldn't have been bad regardless. But you at least kind of want to shadow walk towards them, because that way you will be there if it's necessary. Now, in this case, I see the Diana playing very aggressive in mid lane. Basically, just pick up Diana ult. I'm level 9 to her level 11. But if I get this, I get a lot of XP from it as well. I hit level 10 now, which is nice as well. And right there, I'm just going to go back to clearing my jungle camps here, because they are up, and yeah, I need to make sure that I kill them. Now the Rift Herald's up, so I can definitely take this again. And from this point onwards, I definitely want to just reset towards the dragon, because we definitely can contest this dragon right now. Darius can come, there's no problems anymore. They only got one dragon in the early game from playing off of bot side more so. And I played more so off of the top side, giving Darius a more, like a bigger lead. And Darius played off that really well, which is good. So that's pretty good for me there. Now this is one of those situations, if you're playing an Echo as Sylas, you can just go in, doesn't matter, you can play extremely aggressive. Just steal Echo ultimate and just start playing forward the entire time. Because you are already good at playing forward, playing extremely aggressive going in. And that's already going to be very, very strong. Because you can just sustain yourself through the W and everything. But with Echo ult you can take that to the next level and be even more aggressive, which is good. Actually, something I'm a little bit late to mention. The maxing order for Sylas is obviously going to be your W first, because this is the bread and butter. This is going to be the regen, like the sustain you need through fights and everything. Now, moving on from your W, you just want to get E second, because this lowers the cooldown, giving you more dashes and more ease up, more CC in fights. This is better than maxing Q afterwards, because this just, like, it does a lot less damage to monsters, which doesn't help you at all in your clear, and this gives you 2 passive procs every time you use it, so it's more effective in your clear as well. So this is mobility advantage, CC advantage really, and then also helps you more in your jungle clear. And then of course Q last and ultimate whenever you can. So that's definitely something to mention that yeah. So this is just an example of a place you could look for. I am not, with Echo ult on me, I am not worried one bit. I'm just gonna go in, I don't care. So right here, I just go in, jump on him, one-shot him really, because I do have quite a significant amount of damage. With my proto build and everything, I could just use that to help extra bursts. Now right here, in this case, the fight's very aggressive. My Blitz and my Z went in. Now the problem is Blitz doesn't really do any damage. The Z also doesn't really do any damage, and we were fighting them with multiple people against us, so that wasn't really an optimal play we could make. Now in this case here on top side, you see the Darius going for an aggressive play. I could just go in, use Proto Belt, use W. Proto Belt hit a lot of bullets on the pike, W hit him as well. In this case, I probably didn't need to flash out if I look back at it, but I was a little bit scared of just getting killed by these two, because with my stuff on cooldown, I'm basically just sitting there tanking stuff, and that is not very ideal. But in this case, looking back at it, I probably didn't have to flash out in that situation either. Yeah, so bit of a bad play there. In this case, I could just use Rift Herald again to clear the top turret. I mean, I can't exactly keep the Rift Herald for the entire game, so I just use the Rift Herald here. And it just gives me something. Oh. Right. So in this game I was kind of hoping to get the Rift on in the next turret, but the Echo kills it, which is nice. In this case I just take an ultimate, because at that point I might as well, it doesn't really matter. The Blitz lands the hook because the Jhin chased me, and I can actually miss my Proto Belt, Jesus. And I can kill the Jhin there without too much of a hassle. He is not in a great position at the moment. My bot lane definitely has a lead on him. So that's not bad. Now the problem here is, with a bad ultimate on Sylas, you kind of want to look towards a situation to use it. Jhin ultimate's not going to do anything for me when I jump into a fight. It's going to put me in a stationary position and I'm just going to have to start shooting bullets. Which, on Sylas, doesn't make much sense. So if you have a bad ultimate like this, you just insta-use it, as you can see. I basically just use the ultimate to clear the mid wave. Might as well. This puts my ultimate on cooldown again, and in 60 seconds I can basically take the next ultimate. Which is going to be a lot better than just sitting on a Jhin ultimate for like 30 seconds and then not using it and then still getting the full cooldown that I have to go through on my ultimate. So, yeah, just use it if you have a bad ultimate. It's not something you want to hold on to, really. So in this case, Drake's spawning soon, and we're playing aggressive in the enemy bot side. This is just, like, we can play forward. We have a Darius currently here after, like, getting the massive fleet that he got from me diving the gangplank, basically, and just making it impossible for that guy to play the game. He just gets a really, really good lead. I played top. I basically split the map, so the Darius had all the free reign he wanted, and then also diving the gangplank as well in this case, in this situation. My bot lane managed to actually come out ahead after, even though they didn't have me around to do anything for them. That's really good as well. But yeah, right here we can just play aggressive when we want, because we do have the advantage right now. Now Diana's a lot stronger than Zed, of course, but that's a detail, really, not really the main problem here. So right here, again, you see me being fairly low, but it doesn't really matter on Sylas. You can easily risk to be this low, or you can easily just be this low and it doesn't matter, because as you can see, the moment I jump in, I like E into the wall, use my chain to get over, W, and I basically gain most of my HP back anyway. I do have a stopwatch, so I can easily use this if the Diana does go for some damage rotation that I can't really deal with. She doesn't, she flashes over, I just chase her with E. And this is also why maxing E is very valuable, because an 8-second cooldown on this is a lot more effective than just like, without this right here, this wouldn't have been up, I wouldn't have been able to catch her, and just more mobility in general is going to be very good, of course. I'm moving on from that. It's just like a standard fight, really. At this point in the game, playing the early game correctly with my top laner, he has an insane lead, of course. But then also my bot lane hasn't done badly either, even though they got ganked quite a bit. From this point onwards, it's just basic team fighting with Sylas. There's really not much else there is to it. From jungle tricks you saw early game to help you clear, to now at this point in the game, I mean, playing Sylas in teamfights is basically just looking for a pick, looking to take a good ultimate. And with that good ultimate, like a Diana ultimate, you just jump in, flash in, E in, doesn't matter, whatever you do, just get in there. Use like a Diana ultimate, for example, or use a Gangplank ultimate to zone, or use an Ashe ultimate, for example, to engage a team fight. Just take any good ultimates from the enemy wherever you can. Look to take those ultimates as well by dashing forwards and just surprising them to take ults, or flank them to take ults so they can't stay on range on you. So just do that and then play team fights the way you would play team fights. You can play very aggressive if you have Zonias or a stopwatch, and just play forward and play forward even more. And that way it's just the way you play with Sylas in the mid to late game team fights. That's basically it. So playing team fights with Sylas is just completely looking for good ultimates, using those ultimates as well, and then sustaining yourself through fights with your W and everything. And that's basically it for that. So after like seeing how you play the early game, and then also now knowing the team fighting tactic and everything, that has been pretty much it for this video. If you guys have any questions, do make sure to put those in the comments below. If you guys want to catch me streaming live, you can. There is a link to my Twitch in the description below as well. And yeah, want to see more videos from me? Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!